Hello and welcome. I'm Jamie. Thanks for joining me today. We are going to do a yin yoga practice today that will be focused in on the hips and the low back. So getting a little release of tension and tightness from those spaces. All you are going to need today is a blanket. And you can see I took one and kind of folded it up nice and long and a little bit thick here. So you can kind of create something that looks similar to this with a blanket. So go grab one if you don't already have one. And if you have not practiced yin before, it is a little bit different than your maybe more commonly found hatha and vinyasa flow classes. We're going to be moving much less. So long held poses. We're going to stay down on the floor so you don't have to worry. You're not going to be holding warrior two for a long time. It'll be forward folds and back bends and hip openers and twists. So we'll get a little bit of all of that today. Yin is designed to focus in on the connective tissue as opposed to the muscles. So that's part of the reason why it's different. We're going to relax into our body as we hold these long poses. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the poses. But we'll also be focusing in on relaxation, internal awareness, and activating our parasympathetic nervous system to promote a sense of release here throughout our practice today. So this is a great practice before bed. It's a great practice at any time when you just need to relax and to feel like you get a nice juicy stretch. So you're gonna start seated on your blanket, and what you're gonna wanna do is just sit right up at the edge. So we're not way back on the blanket, you're just on the edge, almost like it's almost should feel like you're kind of tilting forward off of the blanket. This helps to lift our hips up a little bit higher than our knees. This is great for finding a little more length in the spine. And we're going to be forward folding, so you're going to want that to help you get up and out of the pelvic bowl. But I want to give you a moment here before we move into our first pose to close your eyes. Tune into your breath. So take a few nice, deep, long inhales and exhales. Feel yourself rooted through the sits bones. And I'm going to give you maybe a minute here to do some intuitive movement. So maybe that's rolling the shoulders out. Maybe that's moving into the neck. Maybe sweeping the arms up and getting a nice side body stretch. So just do whatever feels good for you, for your spine, for your shoulders. Just get yourself ready to relax. A little bit longer. If you need to just maybe shake it out, that might feel good. Maybe pulling some of that flesh out from underneath you so you can really connect through your sit bones. Maybe just some side to side shifts. And then as you feel ready, we're just going to settle in here, finding your seat. And we're going to extend our legs out long in front of us. The first pose we're going to do is caterpillar pose. And many of these poses you will recognize from your, well, maybe recognize if you've done a lot of other yang style yogas like hatha or vinyasa, but we've given them different names. They've given them different names a lot of the time in yin just to help kind of distinguish them so that we know we're going to be practicing this a little bit differently. So the main difference here when we're in this forward fold is that we are not engaged in our legs. We're not flexing our toes. We're not tightening up the muscles. We're really softening. We're letting the feet flop open. The legs become nice and soft. You might even just shake them around a little bit, remind them. And then we're going to bring the hands on either side of the body and lengthen up through the spine. So we're starting with a tall spine and we're walking the hands forward. You're going to lead with your heart, right? Heart towards the toes, long spine. Come to that point where you can't really come any further, but maybe back it out so you're not at your absolute edge. And then I want you to round the back and drop the head down. So the neck becomes soft here. It's no effort on the next part, and the head becomes completely heavy. Now you are going to potentially look different. Everyone's going to be different because your bodies are different. So you may be up here. This might be your forward fold. Maybe you're way down here. It's going to depend entirely on your own body. And I want you to listen to your body and do what's right for you. Don't push. So again, you want to be back away from the edge. Let your head sink heavy. Let your spine round wherever you are, and close your eyes and settle in. Settle back into the rhythm of the breath. Breath flowing in and out through the nose. Nice and smooth and even with those breaths. Softening your body a little bit more with each exhale, so your shoulders are releasing away from your ears. Your whole body is becoming heavier. We're released here. We're holding our poses in yin for anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. So in this practice today, we'll probably be more in the 3-minute range, so we can fit a little bit more into the time we have. But if you were practicing it out in a class in the real world, you might find poses held a bit longer. And the reason for that is, again, like I said at the beginning, we're concentrating in on our connective tissue. So by softening into our muscles, we start to let our connective tissue lengthen and stretch, soften just a bit. Our connective tissue is what forms our joints. It holds the bone to bone, but it also holds muscle to bone in places in our body and muscle to muscle. And the connective tissue can become hardened and stiffened, especially when we overuse the muscles and we don't get enough of that release. So this is why we really want to soften the muscles here. We're letting them be completely relaxed. If you're a person who does a lot of fitness or a lot of that more yang, intense style yoga, yin is a great practice to add in. The yin to the yang, right? We need it. I'm going to spend just a few more moments here. Let yourself sink just a little bit deeper. And then on your next inhale, begin to walk your hands back towards your hips, and you're rolling your way up your spine. You can imagine the way a fern unrolls, where it's one vertebra stacking on top of the next. Shoulders, neck, and head come up last. Good. And then you can bring the hands back behind you. We're going to take our feet and plant them wide on the mat, knees towards the ceiling. And we'll just windshield wiper side to side, turning your gaze opposite of your knees. Perfect. So that was a big forward fold, and that really is going to help to release the low back. We also probably in that particular forward fold might have gotten a bit of stretch into the back of the legs, the hamstrings, the calves. And now we're going to get a back bend. So we're going to be coming onto our bellies, and you have the option, if you want, to take your blanket and unfold it so that it's less thick than this and lay it over the center of your mat as a cushion for your hip bones. You're welcome to. If it doesn't bother you to just be on the hip bones on the mat, you can have that as well. So either one is fine. But you're just going to either move the blanket out of the way or lay it down over the mat, and then come down onto the belly. So we're going to take, to start, the elbows out to the sides. We're going to stack the hands on top of each other, and you're just going to rest those down in front of you, and then drop your forehead down onto your hands. So the hands are creating a little cushion for your forehead. I just want you to soften into this. So crocodile pose. This is a gentle back bend, and depending on your body and your back, you might be feeling it as a more intense back bend, or you might not really be feeling it as much at all. But I want you to breathe into the space in the low back regardless. I want you to become really aware of how that space feels. Eyes closed, attention moving through the body. Smooth and even breath, softening into your low body, your glutes, your quads, the core softening. Now, you've got the option to stay just like this if this feels like enough for you, But your other option is to move up into Sphinx. And I'm going to move this way for you to be able to see what I do here. But if you are coming up into Sphinx, you're going to bring your elbows directly below your shoulders. And plant your forearms parallel, palms down, low body stays soft. So just make sure you don't end up with elbows back here, because then you're going to start to strain into the shoulder. You're going to maybe start to lose your neck and dump down through the chest. You want to stay lifted and long in the spine. So heart lifts, neck is long, gaze can be out in front of you. If it feels better to take it down just in front of the fingertips, that's fine too. Just don't lose your neck into your shoulders. Smooth and even breaths here, breathing into the low back. If it becomes too much to be in Sphinx, feel free to come back down into Crocodile where we started. That's perfect too. Couple more breaths here. And now one more option if you want to take this even further, and again, it's an option. So if you're feeling good here, stay like this. We're never looking for pain. So sharp shooting pain, if that happens in your low back, then definitely come back down into a previous variation of the pose. But here, if you want to come up into seal, you're going to press into the palms, straighten into the elbows. Maybe take your hands the width of the mat and turn your fingers just slightly out. Press into the heels of the palms and lift the heart. Lengthen the spine. And again, if it's too much, come on back down into Sphinx. But if it feels like a nice stretch, you might just stay here. We won't stay for a super long time, but let the attention be on the breath and not on wondering how much longer we have. Notice those moments where the mind wanders and just bring it on back. Good, and now if you are up in seal, you can start to lower back down to the elbows, back into Sphinx. And then we'll all return to Crocodile, hands stacked one on top of the other, forehead resting down. Just breathe into the low back here. Take a few breaths, eyes closed, forehead heavy against the hands. Check in with your body. How does it feel? What sort of changes in how it feels might you be experiencing right now? And then keeping the head nice and soft against the hands, you can take your feet up into the air. So we're just bending the knees, feet come up, and then you're just going to windshield wiper side to side. So your hips start to rock back and forth on your mat, little release for the low back. And then as you're ready, slide your hands beneath your shoulders and press yourself up. We're going to come up into tabletop. We'll be moving on to our backs shortly, but take a moment here to just work into the spine a little bit. So maybe some cat-cows, inhaling as you lift the heart, exhaling as you round the spine. If you want to just hold a cat pose with the spine rounded for a little bit after that big back bend we just did, you can. If it would feel better to take a child's pose here, please feel free. Just a few more moments. Perfect, and then we'll just come to sit back. So we are going to be using the wall for this next pose. So if you don't have the end of your mat up against a wall, go ahead and pull it up to one. So just like how I have set mine up here. And then I'm going to have my blanket nearby too, still folded up here, long and somewhat thick. So we're going to take the legs up the wall, and then we're going to move into a hip opener. So what we'll do is start by sitting with one hip just right up against the wall, and you're going to shift. So you're shifting onto the back and you're taking the legs straight up. So take your time, and then you might start by having the backs of your legs and your butt all connected with the wall, but what you'll discover as we move into this pose is that you might need to scoot back. So maybe just do a little experiment here before we set up. Bend one knee, take the opposite ankle to the thigh. So you're creating a figure 4. And if you can't do that from where you are, Then scoot yourself back away from the wall a little bit and keep scooching back until you hit a point where you can get that figure four. So you can scoot back as much as you need to, but we're just using the wall as a prop here, basically, so we don't have to use our arms so much. And then wherever you end up, we're gonna take that blanket and you can lift your hips and slide your blanket so it's underneath your sacrum. And that's that bony space right at the base of your spine. So not all the way under your seat and not up in the arch of the back. You should feel this kind of bony spot pressing right down into the blanket, wherever you are. And then we'll plant our left foot on the wall. So our left knee is bent, and then right ankle comes to left thigh. Figure four. And we're gonna just settle into that space. I'm gonna come out of it, you guys stay there. Let your eyes close. Tune into the body and notice where you are feeling the sensation. So you might be feeling some stretch through your outer right hip, but you may be feeling some sensation elsewhere in the body. So send your breaths into those spaces as you inhale, and let your exhales release and soften into those spaces. Smooth and even breaths, in and out through the nose. So one of the really nice things about yin, or one of the other kind of cool things about yin, I guess, is that we are moving energy. And that's always the case with yoga, but yin is really targeting into the same spaces that is used in Chinese medicine, such as acupuncture and acupressure. So the same spaces in the body where you might find that you get pressure or needles are being targeted here. And so it's the same idea of letting energy flow freely through the body. We're releasing blocks, we're freeing up the energy channels. Those energy channels in the Indian culture, where we find yoga coming from, called nadis. We're moving prana through the body. We were talking about that Chinese medicine, such as acupressure and acupuncture. We'll be talking about the meridians in the body and the chi, that energy moving through, but it's all kind of referring to the same thing. These energy channels in our body that can become blocked with energy, especially if we're holding on to a lot of stress or tension, which sometimes happens with our hips. Those big joints become the space that take it all on. Sometimes leaves them feeling blocked or feeling tight. Breathing through those spaces, maybe even imagining that your inhales, that you can see energy drawing in and moving freely through your hip, all through the body. And the exhales are sending tension and tightness away. So you're able to soften just a little bit more. And even if physically you don't notice any difference, energetically, you're allowing for a little bit more of a release. Just do a few more moments here. Nice and slow here, you're gonna take your right ankle off of your left thigh. And then you can hug both knees in towards the chest. Give yourself a nice little hug. Maybe you even rock side to side on the low back. Little sacral massage. And we'll move to the other side. So you'll plant your right foot now on the wall with the knee bent, and then bring your left ankle onto your right thigh. So find your way there. Bearing in mind that we are not symmetrical beings, and especially with our hips, we often discover that we may need to make accommodations differently on one side than the other. So if you need to scoot yourself further away from the wall or closer, please do. Otherwise, you're just settling into that space once again, softening your body, softening into your arms. Maybe they're at the sides of the body. Maybe it feels good to bring them overhead on the mat, or resting your hands on your belly. Doesn't matter. It's good to become aware of those differences in the body. Sometimes we don't realize how asymmetrical we are until we begin body awareness practices like yoga or even other forms of fitness, qigong, things like that. Start to discover a little more sense of our own physical body. So breathing into those spaces now where you feel sensation on this side, maybe that outer left hip. Maybe there's other spaces you're noticing it, but we'll just draw energy in, let it flow freely through those spaces. And then as you exhale, let yourself soften and release. Smooth and even breaths. Again, take note of those moments when the mind wanders away, if it's maybe heading off towards a plan you're making or work, dinner, whatever it might be. Just try to shift that attention back to the breath. Giving yourself permission to find stillness here. Stillness in these poses. We're letting go of that need and desire to be constantly doing and instead allowing yourself to simply be present. Just a few more moments here on the side. And then we'll release the pose and draw both knees into the chest once again. Give yourself a hug, maybe rock it a little side to side. We're going to move into a twist next for a little spinal release. So you can press your feet back into the wall and lift your hips and just slide the blanket out. And go ahead and slide the blanket onto the left side of yourself. So we're going to come into our twist just from where we are. Hopefully you can do this just based on the sound of my voice, but I'll demo it here too just in case you need to look and see. But what will happen, and again, if you need to adjust how far you are from the wall, you can, but with the feet against the wall, arms come out to a T, and then we're just going to drop our knees and our feet over to the left side. So that your right shoulder stays connected down. Maybe your gaze starts to turn out to the right. And then if you need a little support underneath your left knee or underneath the knees, you can slide that blanket. You could fold it as thick as you need to offer that support. So let yourself sink and settle here. Let your shoulders relax. Let your head be completely heavy. You're just melting in. Spinal release. Coming back to those smooth breaths, maybe a nice big breath in through the nose here. And a big sigh out the mouth. Feel yourself letting go just a little bit more. Sometimes the stillness is actually the more challenging part of yin than the actual postures, right? It can be hard. We're a go, go, go society, and we feel like we should be doing and accomplishing at every moment, and just have to remind yourself that there is an accomplishment here as well. An accomplishment in the sense that you are allowing yourself relaxation. You're giving your mind a chance to soften and clear. doesn't necessarily serve us well to be so cluttered up all the time, trying to multitask and think of a million things at once. Feel that breath flow in and out. Sometimes it helps to even add a little count to the breath. Maybe counting to 4 or 5 with each inhale and exhale, if that helps your mind to remain a bit more present. We'll spend a little bit longer here in this twist. Last few seconds. And then slowly you're going to return your gaze to the ceiling and start to lift your knees back up. And we're going to take this right into a twist on the other side. So you're just going to shift the knees right over to the right side, settling them down. If you were using the blanket as a support, you can shift it over and slide it beneath your legs. Let both shoulders melt down. We want to make sure that the left shoulder doesn't peel up just to get our knees closer to the floor. It's better to use that blanket as a support. And then you might turn the gaze out to the left if that feels good for your neck. Melting here. Twists offer us a little detoxification. It's almost like you're wringing out the internal organs, wringing out that bad stuff, the toxic stuff, so you can flush it out of the system. Let yourself soften and settle. Maybe we discover here that the mind is becoming a bit quieter naturally on its own, and maybe not. It's sometimes hard to achieve. Sometimes it just depends on the day or the circumstances. Maybe you discover that the body is becoming a little more relaxed and soft. You're naturally releasing into the muscles a little bit more. But again, if that is not the experience you're having, it does not mean that you're doing it wrong. It's always going to help improve your experience of yoga is letting go of expectation. Letting go of expectations on your body. Letting go of expectations that what you should be physically able to do is the same as what you were physically able to do yesterday or last week or last year. We're always evolving and changing. Last little bit here. Stay soft, stay settled. Almost like you're an ice cube in the sink. Imagine yourself melting a little bit more with each exhale. A little bit more release. Now we'll go ahead and turn the gaze back towards the ceiling and then slowly inhale the knees back up. You can hug the knees in towards the chest, rock a little side to side. Again, get that nice little massage on the sacrum. We're going to move right into legs up the wall here. So we're already in position, although if you have pushed yourself back away from the wall, you're going to want to scoot yourself back so that the whole back side of your legs and your butt are like up against the wall. You're touching completely. So make any adjustments you need to get there. And then you can take your blanket and slide it back beneath your sacrum once again. Get that little bit of lift, a little bit of support there. And then let your feet be soft. Let, again, the shoulders and the upper body melt down into your mat. So legs are going straight up the wall. You can have your arms anywhere they feel good. Again, they could rest alongside the body. They could extend overhead on the mat, or maybe even bringing one hand to the belly and one hand to the heart. If you want to really connect in with your breath, feeling that rise and fall. And this is a pose that really helps to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, helps us find that sense of relaxation. It's a great one for preparing for sleep. But anytime you need a little relaxation, this is a great pose to come into. We're reversing our circulation, allowing fluids to drain from the feet and the ankles. Same as an inversion. Well, it is an inversion, same as those more challenging inversions like handstands and headstands. We're getting our feet up above our heart. So we get all those same benefits. Stay with the breath. Stay soft. Let your upper body fill completely with your inhales and empty completely with your exhales. Experience that ocean-like, that wave-like rise and fall. Find a rhythm. I'm going to leave you here, so you might treat this pose as a Shavasana and just stay here for as long as you choose, relaxing, allowing the mind to do as it will, maybe letting go of that focus on the breath. Or if you'd like to take a more traditional Shavasana, you of course can shift out of this pose and come flat down on your mat. Wherever you decide to complete your practice today, I want to thank you all for being here with me, letting me lead you through a yin experience. Wishing you all love and light. Namaste.